I love these readings. Salt and light. I don't know what you know about salt and light. You can hear me okay through this one, can't you? Through the Wonder mic. You're the salt of the earth. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. Being salty and lighty. Hopefully, I'm in charge. Excellent. I love the way that Jesus takes everyday things and somehow uses them to explain mind-blowing kingdom principles. He does it all the time. And that's what he does here with salt and with light. Just before, in this passage, Jesus has delivered, remember, his kingdom manifesto. Blessed are they that. The Beatitudes, the Beatitudes that we call them. And so now, after he's told them to flip on their heads the way that they think about most things, he now says, go out and start a holy revolution. And that's what this is all about today. Go and start a holy revolution. Be salt and light. Now, when we hear the words salt and light, we probably don't think of the same things that they would have done when they would have heard the words salt and light. Because we live in a post-Edison society. Edison, the man that invented the light bulb. Light is a very different thing to us than it was to them. We use salt in a very different way. So we're going to just take a look at maybe what they might have heard. You are the salt of the earth. The first thing is that salt was a preservative in biblical times. It was sprinkled onto meat to stop it from rotting because of the heat. So it was a preservative sprinkled onto meat to stop it rotting. So was Jesus saying, you are the salt to slow down the rot in people's lives as they move farther away from me. In the heat of life, people will naturally not cope. The rot will set in unless you do something about it. You are the salt of the earth. That idea of a preservative in modern thinking, maybe. You are the fridge of the earth. Secondly, salt purifies. Growing up, my brother suffered terribly with sore throats. Every other week, he was at the doctor's with tonsillitis, and he was always coughing. Guess what the doctor told him to do? Gargle with salt. Why? Because salt is an active ingredient. It purifies. You are to be an active force against the ills of this world. In modern language, maybe, you are the penicillin of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. Salt adds flavour. Without it, of course, so many things taste really bland, don't they? You're to teach people how to live life with full flavour. I know I quote it all the time. I quote it at funerals, John 10:10. Jesus came that we might have life in all its fullness, with all its flavour, fully leaded, fully caffeine, fully flavoured. I've turned my page too quick. Life in all its fullness. Why? Well, because you and I were born for more than this life, weren't we? We were born for eternity. And that's why there's always going to be that hole. There's always going to be that God-shaped hole that can't be filled with anything that can be bought, drunk, smoked, eaten, purchased, hoarded. Nothing else can fill that God-shaped hole but God. It's our job to tell people the flavour that's missing in the God-shaped hole is God. That's how they live life. Full flavour. Which was the bread that was the one with now taken out? Just came to mind. There was an advert, wasn't there, was it Allison's? Yeah. This is how to live a complete, fully flavoured life, says Jesus. It's with me in that part of your life. That's how you have full flavour, and that's our job, to tell people that that's what they need to do. And of course, we've got another modern way that we use salt that they wouldn't have even thought about, because their climate was totally different. We also use salt, of course, to melt ice. In a cold climate, I wonder if Jesus might have said, "You are the anti-slip agent of the world. You are the gritter of the earth, with a mission to stop people from slipping and falling. You are the salt of the earth," with all those metaphors. There to preserve. There is an active ingredient against the ills of the earth, like penicillin. To bring flavour to people's chips. And to stop people from slipping. You were the salt of the earth. The interesting thing is that saltiness, of course, is no use while it's in the shaker, is it? It's no point having salt and keeping it in the shaker. Your saltiness is best at work, not in here, at home, amongst your friends, at school, at college, wherever you spend your time. That is where the salt is needed. That's where Jesus sends you to be salty. Let your conversations be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, we read in Colossians. Even the words that we use can carry all those ideas. How we communicate with people. Oh, we've got the howling banshees as well today. The wind. Even our words can be like salt. I remember hearing about a church in Sheffield where the church leader insisted that to be a member of his church, you had to be a member of some other group. He didn't care what it was. It could be Knit and Natter, Mothers Union, Mums and Toddlers, Darts, whatever you like. But his whole idea was, if you're going to be part of my church, you've got to be part of some other group so that you can be salty. Because the danger is that all the salt gets kept in one place. And it can't make a difference. Now there's a flip side to this. That was the good news. It's a wonderful idea to think that you could make that kind of difference to people around you. God's instrument of flavour enhancement to people's lives. But there's some small print that comes with it. If we're the salt of the earth and we fail to be the salty people of God, there's actually a sting in the tail. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. Salt's reason for being is to make a difference, says Jesus. And if it doesn't, then you might as well chuck it in the bin. It's good for nothing. I wonder how many unsalty Christian good-for-nothings there are. Oof. There's a challenge. If we're not being salty, according to Jesus, we're good for nothing but the bin. That's a challenge. The second metaphor that Jesus uses, he says, go be salty. And then he says, go be lighty as well. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. You are the light of the world. We don't live in Palestine. We don't know what it's like for there to be no street lights, do we? But the first hearers of this would have known that at night time it is pitch black. The sky would just be illuminated with so many stars, but unless the moon was out, you would be able to see absolutely nothing. And I tried to find a picture of an illuminated city on a hill, and it was really difficult to find. That's the best I could find. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. It can be seen from miles around. It's impossible to ignore. To travellers on the road, an illuminated city would offer some direction, some safety from the danger of travelling, of course. Jesus had told people, I am the light of the world. And then he commissions us to go and be his light, to be salty and to illuminate the world, because Jesus is in us. You don't hide your light under a bowl. You don't put it under a bushel. It's like a big basket. Who does that? What's the point of lighting a light and then covering it up with something else? You don't put it in a building. You don't hide your light in a church. It's most effective out there. That's what lights are there for, to illuminate the way. But it's not just bushels that hide the light. I want to just think about this for a second. And I've been playing with me technology, and hopefully it'll work. You don't light a lamp and then cover it up with a bushel. But I wonder, what are the bushels that might hide our light? I just want to think about it for a minute and suggest to you 4 things that I think are our modern bushels that conceal our light. And if the tech works, it should look good. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. I'm glad Tina was impressed. The first bushel, I think, that hides our light is fear. What are we afraid of that stops our light from shining? I think sometimes we're afraid of looking stupid, aren't we? We're afraid of being rejected by people if we were to be bold enough to share our faith. Just think about it for a second. Here's another bushel that I think causes us to hide our light. Baggage. Our insecurities, bad experiences from the past, hurts. Any of that ring true? It does. It affects us, doesn't it? All these things hide our light and stop it from shining. Notice I use the word hide. They don't put the light out, do they? That's the good news. They just conceal it. We can get the bushels off again. but I think they make a big difference. Here's another one. Masks. Do you know what I mean by masks? I mean putting on your Sunday smile, your Sunday best. How are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. When your world's falling apart. And what does it do? It just makes everybody else who's having a tough time think, well, what's wrong with me? How come everybody else is fine? And I'm facing trouble and strife and grief and relationship breakdown and stress. Why is everybody else okay? We read in Acts 2 that the believers ate together, prayed together. They were one in heart and mind. They met in sincerity of heart, it says. What's that mean? They stopped pretending. They stopped pretending with one another, and they got real. I'm not suggesting every time somebody says, how you doing, you air your dirty washing, and pour out your heart. There's a time and a place, of course. But we all need those people, don't we? Who will ask us, how are you doing? And it's not a greeting. It's a serious question, and they mean it. We need to be real. Because if we're always pretending that everything is fine, all it does is it just cramps us up inside, because we're hiding the truth. And it puts a bushel over our light. Here's a final bushel. Now that one you might find interesting, but I think religion hides our light. When we do all the outward things but lose the heart, when all we're left with is habits and traditions, but we've got no spiritual depth, I think it hides our light and stops us shining. Hides the light. Doesn't put it out, but it hides the light. We can take them back off again. Now, there's some more good news. If you need some help in helping your light to shine a little bit brighter, well, we've got just the solution. During Lent, we're going to be starting up some home groups. And the home groups are going to be looking at some great material called Shape. The hope is that we're going to have enough groups meeting that there's one close enough for you to walk to. That's the plan, okay? And there's going to be enough spread out that they're not all going to be at the same time. So there should be one that you can get to. And this is what Shape is all about. The S of Shape, the first week, is all about recognizing not if you have spiritual gifts, but what spiritual gift God has given you. That's the first week of Shape. The second week is all about saying, what has God already put on your heart? What's your heart's desire? What motivates you? What do you love to do? I was having this conversation with Mike. It's easy. Fish. What has God put on your heart? How has He wired you? It's there for a reason. It's part of your unique shape. The third week, abilities. What are you naturally good at? It's not coincidence. It's a God-given thing that's part of your shape. Fourthly, the P of Shape is your personality, your natural wiring, your character, your qualities, your strengths. It's all there for a reason, because it's part of your God-given shape. And finally, your experience. What makes up your story? The good, the bad, and the ugly is all part of your shape that makes you who you are, and God can use it. Because there is nobody that has got your shape but you. You are unique. And the whole of your journey is known and understood by God. And that makes your shape. Your life experiences. So during Lent, we're going to be looking at this material. It's great. It's called Shape. To help us to realise how God has made each and every one of us. And then as a result of that, to put some of that shape to use in the best possible way. Now, with the help of my able assistant Mike, come on, able assistant. I haven't got enough pens, but if the people who are on the end of the rows have the pen first. Cheers, Mike, chuck us some pens out. I've got a little slip, and it's just a tick box slip. And all it asks for is your name and address and some contact details. And then it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sorry, that was a bit fast. It says the days of the week, morning, afternoon, evening. And all I'd ask you to do is to tick when you might be available to join a home group. Because we then want to put the groups together to try and accommodate you. If you're available all through the week, 12 hours a day, tick all the boxes. If you're only available on a Tuesday morning, tick Tuesday morning, okay? It's very simple. And then underneath, there's some little pictures of somebody walking, someone on a bike, someone on a car, and a bus. And it just says, tick the one, which would be your means of transport. Because obviously, if you're going to be on foot, we want to try and find a group for you that's close enough for you to walk to. If you've got a car, it means that we could put you in a group a little bit further away. Make sense? Excellent. If you could take one and pass them back, and then at the end of the service, if you can leave them on the table at the front, and then what we're going to do, we're going to sit down, and we're going to try and plan it so that you haven't got to, obviously, but everybody that wants to can have the opportunity to join one of these small groups that will meet through the weeks of Lent for us to understand our shape. Okay? Does that make sense? Wonderful. When you finish ticking, if you could be so kind as to lend somebody else your pen, that'd be great. Oh, I've got a spare one here if you want one. It's a pen. Have a think about it.